Yo, what's up guys? Cory Sandhagen here. Welcome to the channel. Today we're doing the 60K Q&A like we did for the 50K Q&A. Unfortunately, this is going to be the last one that we do, on the normal station, okay? I want to bring it over to a membership thing. The only reason is because I'm starting to notice that a lot of the verbiage and concepts that I've worked really hard to obtain are kind of being echoed in a lot of the reels and sometimes from a few of the other content creators that I'm seeing. And I kind of want to keep it a little bit closer to the chest. So we're going to do that, the membership program, 19 bucks a month, really not that bad in my opinion. We're going to do a technique of the week. We're going to do a Q&A once a week so that we can kind of build up this community and I can really help you guys out on a little bit more of a personal level instead of opening it up to, the masses of all of the internet. So that'll be available. This is going to be the last Q&A that we do on this channel. But again, I think that you guys are going to have major benefits from doing the membership. Like I said, really cheap. Make sure that you guys get it. Let's crack into the Q&A. All right, guys, first question, okay? Why does boxing striking look different than MMA striking? All right, this is very important thing to understand. Rule sets matter, okay? Jiu-jitsu, wrestling, boxing, all of these rule sets that don't require all of the different sports where we don't just go into a cage like this and then decide like, hey, I can do whatever I want in order to like beat your ass. That changes stuff dramatically, especially in boxing. So before I go on too much of a rant and get to rambling like I kind of sometimes do, boxing, the biggest difference, one, you can't like kick and take down, but two, is the gloves are so big that they cover so much of your face that standing in places that is not safe in MMA, you can stand there safely in boxing. So what I mean by that is if I have like a shield that's much bigger than a tinier one, I have a lot less, or if it's bigger, I have a lot more play with me being able to like fight in the pocket than if I have a small shield. If I have little gloves that are pretty much no bigger than these, and I have to use this to cover my entire area that sucks to get hit in, like my temples, my jaw, my nose, kind of like the ear-ish, where you see people really get hurt. If I don't have as much space or as big of a shield to cover myself, it's flat out way more dangerous to stand close and play a game where we can exchange combinations than if I have bigger gloves, okay? That's number one. Number one is that the bigger the glove, the safer you are. You can hang out in closer distances because you have a lot more ability to cover what it is that you need to cover, which doesn't sound like that big of a deal, but that's a giant deal, okay? Number two, the space is much different. The space is different, again, because of these. If we used big boxing gloves in MMA, I would absolutely have no problem with someone setting up shop right in front of me and me doing this. I would really have no problem doing that because I know I can cover all of the things that it hurts to get hit in, okay? If we're in MMA with little gloves and something glimpses off of here or barely makes it inside here, that's a really big deal. I don't get to stand that close. So just by the nature of your shield not being as big, you have to leave more space because I talk about this all the time. Space is safety. Space is reaction time. The more distance I have from an opponent, the more time I have to react to whatever it is that they're doing to me. That makes it a lot safer. So that's one of the major things. There's also this big giant piece to where in boxing, because I can be really covered, I can really ground myself to the floor and decide that me and you are going to exchange, okay? The reason you don't see that as much in MMA is because exchanging in MMA with tiny gloves is a really bad idea. So I guess what I'm saying in a really roundabout way is outside of just the wrestling and the kicks and all of the dynamicness that happens inside of MMA, outside of that, the biggest difference in why you have to fight differently in MMA is because your shield is like a quarter of the size as a big one. That's the biggest difference. It changes, it like trickles down into space, into distance, into where you can stand, into how hard you can try to throw, because again, the shield is different. All right guys, other question. How do we use a long guard? Okay, Essentially what you're doing, guys, when you're using a long guard, and I have longer videos on this topic, just like scroll down some, but when you're using a long guard, essentially what you're doing is you're using a Philly shell. The Philly shell works because you use this to protect a decent amount of your face, okay? When you use your long guard, of course, you're not using your hand to protect your face like you would if you were in more of a closed guard like this, okay? With a long guard, you have to use this to protect your face, very similar to how you would with a Philly shell, okay? So that's one of the bigger pieces of using your long guard, is that you have to understand that this is the thing that's gonna protect things flying at your face like this. Leaning like this is very similar to leaning like this in a Philly shell, which is an incredible type of defense. Obviously, Floyd Mayweather, the greatest of all time boxer, uses this, and the kind of kickboxer version of it, in my opinion, is just having this longer guard out, okay? That's from a defensive standpoint. An offensive standpoint, when I have a lot longer of a guard, this hand, just by the nature of it not being all the way here and it being here, makes it so that if my opponent is standing here, instead of punching this far, I only am punching this far, okay? That's a big difference because striking is done with our eyes. It's a video game. It's all reaction time. It's very like optical. It's not proprioceptive. It's not like where someone grabs me, I know where to put my weight, like how the wrestling and grappling sports are. It's more with our eyes. So if I throw something and it needs less distance to travel, you have less time to react to that. If I punch from here, doesn't mean that I can't be effective with it, but it's gonna take longer for me to do this than it is for me to do this. Like, again, not a scientist, pretty sure that that's how it works, okay? Defensively, this is what you use to protect yourself more than this. Offensively, when you use your lead hand, there's a lot less space that you need to cover when you're already obviously out like this. All right, guys, next question, because this is one that I see often over and over again. What type of road work should I be doing to get ready for an MMA fight or a kickboxing fight? Okay, I have a couple spiels on this, and again, I'm gonna try not to ramble. Number one, boxing is like, I don't wanna shit on boxing because I love boxing. I think it's an incredible sport. In boxing, you don't need to know nearly as much as you need to know on a technical, mechanical side as an MMA fighter. I'm sorry, boxers don't have to learn how to armbar, they don't have to learn how to guillotine, they don't know how to escape all of those, they don't know how to deal with double unders, they don't know how to learn how to throw. They don't need to know, they need to know a fraction of what it is that MMA fighters need to know. So this makes me believe that a reason that running is such a big thing in boxing is because they're just flat out bored. They run out of things to do, okay? I'm half kidding on that, half kind of serious. I also think that running is a big piece, like from a cultural aspect of boxing. It's like a very big piece in that cultural aspect. So that kind of like matters a little bit when you're talking, you're learning from the generations before, and the generations before are going to teach you typically the way that you, or the way that they were taught, okay? That's one. Two, my personal opinions on road work is you don't have to do it, okay? I run once a week in the mountains because I enjoy it. I like running. I'm telling you not to do road work, and that's coming from a guy that really enjoys running and is really good at it, okay? I used to really be into running. I used to love running trails. I used to love just like shacking up and going on like a 45-minute run, not thinking about anything, put in my headphones and just like calling myself a badass for 45 minutes while I'm running, and just like imagining my awesome future that I'm gonna have from being a world champ. Outside that, physically, I don't feel like running does that much for me, okay? I do it once a week. I go up like 10,000 feet up into the mountains. I run just to do it because I enjoy it. I like being in the mountains, and I guess it gives me a little bit of like a lung pump and all of that stuff. As far as getting you into shape for fighting, what you really wanna be doing is hitting pads really hard, wrestling really hard, and when it comes to sparring, if you can do it safely, like you have good partners, sparring really hard, okay? Sparring really hard doesn't mean beating the shit out of people. Sparring really hard means going at a very fast, realistic pace without damaging each other too much, and doing that a lot. That's what I would recommend as far as the road work goes. Again, if you like it, do it. Is it gonna make you like the best fighter in the world? Hell no. What's gonna make you the best fighter in the world is practicing all your moves, hard sparring, you know, drilling a ton, hitting pads a ton, wrestling hard, grappling hard. Those are the things that you're actually gonna wanna do if you wanna be good at fighting, but hey, if you like running, then go run. All right, next question. How do I see a fight against me and O'Malley going out, or going on? I would knock his ass out, I'll knock his little ass out. Probably a right hand, maybe a left foot, maybe a right foot, maybe a right knee, maybe a left elbow, maybe a takedown, slam him on his head, maybe a broken nose, maybe I knock some of his tooth out and make him look more methy than he already looks. I don't know. We'll see. Maybe it'll be a jab. I don't know. But hopefully we'll see in 2024. All right, guys, so next question, okay? Which techniques are the most ineffective in striking or something along those lines, okay? So here's my spiel on ineffective shit, is people watch too many highlight reels and not enough actual fights. This leads to an unrealistic expectation of what you are capable of doing. And I know that because I've been in the same shoes as you when I was trying to learn, where I would watch a bunch of highlights and be like, how do I do exactly that? And that's not how this shit works. Okay, so I would say that if there's anything that's ineffective in fighting that is kind of one of the ways that the sport is going, or at least the way that gyms are going, which are teaching the people that are doing the sport, is combinations, okay? Especially in MMA. Combinations are something that people give to you. They aren't something that you get to do whenever you want, okay? So watching a bunch of highlight reels of someone throwing a jab, uppercut, hook body, hook head, overhand, body shot, low kick, 1-2, lead kick, spin kick is just absolutely unrealistic unless that person is hurt, that person is exhausted, or that person is an idiot, okay? Combinations is not how fighting works. Combination operates off of good space, good angles, left and right, good creating space, closing space, and good position. Everything else that happens in fighting happens as an occurrence to those things, okay? So the things that are ineffective is having the unrealistic expectation that if you do all of these things and someone's standing in front of you, you get to do whatever combination you've been practicing on the bag for weeks and weeks and weeks. It's not how fighting works. I'm sorry, I hate to break it to you. I wish it was like a game of fucking Tekken 2 or Mortal Kombat or some shit, but it's not. So sorry about that, but if there's anything that's ineffective, it's the expectation that combinations are gonna happen all the time. All right, rapid fire round where I'm not gonna ramble on all the questions.
Do you sleep between training sessions or do you only sleep at night?
I try to sleep in between training sessions, but I always fail, but I usually just lay there for 20 minutes with my eyes closed anyways.
What's the best way to lose weight?
Best way to lose weight is to not eat any food.
Would you rather have supreme grappling or supreme striking?
I'd rather have supreme striking because that's what pays the big bucks.
Is it okay to dread training, or are you someone who's always looking forward to it?
I don't really dread training. I'm just sometimes pretty tired and don't feel like it, but I never dread it.
How many hours a day do you train generally?
I train generally 2 hours in the morning, 2 hours at night, and then sometimes an extra hour of lifting. So like 4 to 6.
What was your toughest moment / mental battle in your career?
Losing to that mark-ass muff Aljamain was the hardest part of my career.
What current WMMA fighters are you most impressed with right now?
I really like Rose Namajunas, and I really like Valentina Shevchenko's.
How much yoga and stretching do you do?
0 stretching, 0 yoga. All right, guys, that's the Q&A. Okay, again, I feel kind of bad about it. Okay, because I said that I was going to do the Q&As, but again, I want to keep everything a little bit closer. I want to build a community where I can be really, really open and honest without people stealing my shit. So if you guys want to get the membership, $19 a month, really not that bad. Peace. I love you. Goodbye.